Decoded.
Welcome to Book Decoded. Really excited for today. We're going to unlock some serious aha moments.
We're cracking open a book that's just packed with actionable ideas, great stories, perfect for curious minds.
Absolutely. The book is Click, How to Make What People Want. It's by Knapp and John Zeratsky.
Right, and these guys, they know their stuff. They were deep in product development at Google, think Gmail, YouTube ads, Google Meet.
Wow, yeah.
Plus, they've got the VC angle now, so they've seen countless products try and, well, succeed or fail.
Exactly. So our mission today is to decode their key ideas. We want to pull out the frameworks for building products that really genuinely connect with people, that, click.
That's satisfying. Click.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it all starts, really, with understanding that moment. The book kicks off with a great little story from Knapp's past.
Oh, the Mealy Mouse story. I love that one.
Yeah, from high school. It perfectly illustrates this click idea.
So, set the scene. Jake's trying to get his friends interested in games he's inventing.
And getting nowhere. Total indifference.
Right, crickets. But then he makes Mealy Mouse, this simple maze game, and suddenly
Everything changes. His friends are totally hooked. They're competing, trash-talking.
even his math teacher gets obsessed with it. Mr. Fleck, was it?
That's him. And that transformation, that sudden engagement, that's the click.
So what is the click, fundamentally?
Well, the authors define it as that moment when a product and its customer just fit. It solves an important problem for them. It really stands out from other options, and it just feels right. It makes sense.
That seems like the absolute key to success, doesn't it? That connection.
It is, but, and this is crucial, they stress how incredibly hard it is to actually achieve that click consistently.
Oh, for sure. We've all seen projects, ideas that seemed great, just fall flat.
And it's not just disappointing, it can be really costly, right? Wasted time, money, morale.
Definitely discouraging.
And that's really where the book comes in. It's positioned as a guide, a way to find a more reliable path to getting that click right, not just hoping for it.
So less guesswork, more
Yeah.
system.
Exactly. They build on their experience, especially with developing design sprints.
Which were huge for problem solving and testing.
Right. But they saw a need for something earlier, something to tackle the very foundation of a product idea. And that led them to create the foundation sprint.
Okay, the foundation sprint. Tell us about that. What's the core idea?
So it's designed specifically for those messy early stages. It's a super compressed process, just 2 days, 10 hours total.
Wow, that's fast.
It is. The goal is to force clarity on the absolute basics before you dive deep into building anything, to create that solid foundation for a product that can actually click.
So what kind of basics are we talking about?
Really fundamental stuff. Who is this actually for? What specific problem are we solving for them? What makes us, this team, uniquely suited to solve it? And importantly, what are the alternatives? Who's the competition?
Getting all that straight in just 10 hours sounds intense. How do they manage that?
Well, one key technique they champion is working alone together.
Sounds a bit contradictory.
It does, but it's really effective. Basically, individuals brainstorm and develop ideas independently first. Then you come together in a very structured way to share, discuss, and make decisions.
So it avoids that sort of groupthink trap where the loudest voice wins.
Exactly. It gets more diverse ideas on the table and streamlines decision-making.
Interesting. So digging into those basics, then the customer and the problem.
Yeah.
They use that brilliant analogy from the movie Big.
The skyscraper robot toy, yes. It's such a perfect warning.
Don't mind us.
Well, you have the toy executives all excited about this robot that turns into a skyscraper. Sounds cool, right? But Tom Hanks' character, who's basically a kid in an adult's body, points out, it's just a building. What's fun about that?
Right. They were focused on the concept, the features they thought were impressive.
And completely missed what a kid would actually want to play with. They didn't understand their customer or the problem of boring toys.
It's so easy to fall into that. I remember designing this super elaborate 3D virtual conference room once. Looked amazing.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Totally missed the point. People just needed a reliable, easy way to talk and share screens. Not fancy 3D furniture. A classic skyscraper robot moment for me.
We've all been there. And to avoid that, the book introduces a core method for the foundation sprint, note and vote.
Okay, note and vote. How does that work?
It's a really structured way to get alignment on, say, the target customer or the main problem. Everyone writes down their ideas silently on notes.
Got it. individual brainstorming first.
Then you stick them up, quickly discuss to clarify, group similar ideas. Then everyone votes silently on the ones they think they're strongest.
Silent voting. Interesting. Why silent?
Again, avoids influencing each other. Then you discuss the top voted notes, have a focused debate, and finally, the designated decider makes the call.
That sounds way more efficient than just throwing ideas around a room.
Much more. And they really stress using plain language. Apply the common sense test. Is this customer real? Is this problem tangible?
Like the examples they give with Phaedra's founders, Katie seeing issues in industrial controls, Jim with data center energy.
Veda with AI analysis limitations. Yeah, they started with concrete, real-world problems faced by actual people, not abstract ideas.
Okay, so customer and problem are nailed down. What about the other basics? Advantage and competition.
Right. For advantage, they break it down into 3 types: capability, insight, and motivation.
Capability is what you're good at. Your skills, tech, brand.
Exactly. What can your team actually do uniquely well? Insight is that deep understanding, maybe, of the customer, the market, the tech that others don't have.
And motivation.
That's the why. The team's passion, the driving force behind the project. What makes you care so much?
And they combine these.
Yep, into a simple formula. Capability plus insight plus motivation, your unique advantage.
Nice. And you figure this out using Note and Vote again.
You bet. Helps the team surface and recognize its own collective strengths, which sometimes get overlooked.
Makes sense. Then understanding the competition. It's not just about direct rivals, is it?
No, that's a key point. You have direct competitors solving the same problem for the same people, but you also have substitutes.
Substitutes being other ways people solve the problem now. Or workarounds.
Precisely. Could be a different type of product, a manual process, or even just ignoring the problem.
They tell that great story about Nike signing Michael Jordan.
Yeah, where Sonny Vaccaro realized the real decision maker, the key customer to convince, wasn't just Michael.
It was his mom, Dolores Jordan.
Yeah.
Understanding the substitute power influence there.
Exactly. Brilliant strategic insight. And related to this, they talk about going for the gorilla.
Meaning?
Targeting the biggest, strongest competitor head on. Like how Slack explicitly positioned itself against email in the early days.
Bold move.
Very. But they also warn that sometimes your biggest competitors simply do nothing. Convincing people to change their existing habits, even bad ones, is often the hardest part.
Right, the inertia factor. Okay, so we've got this solid foundation. Customer, problem, advantage, competition. Now, how do we actually make it click? This is where differentiation comes in.
Absolutely. Differentiation is what makes you stand out. It creates that space between you and everyone else. The book shares the story of orbital materials.
Yeah, they were using AI to invent molecules, right? But struggled to explain why that was better than traditional lab methods.
Exactly. The value wasn't immediately obvious, so they used a simple 2x2 chart.
What did they plot?
They mapped themselves and their competitors based on factors crucial to their customers, things like quality and reliability of the materials developed.
And the goal is that top right quadrant, high on both important factors, with no one's there.
That's the sweet spot, finding that uncontested space. They argue that really great products often introduce a whole new way for customers to think about solutions. They change the evaluation criteria.
And to keep that differentiation front and center, they introduce project principles.
Yes. These are like practical decision-making rules, short, memorable guidelines that constantly reinforce what makes your product different.
Like Google's early ones. Focus on the user. Do one thing well. Fast is better than slow.
Classic examples. Those principles guided so many decisions. The idea is to turn your core differentiators into these principles.
So for ASI, their differentiator was being student-led.
Which became the principle, remove the fog in academic exploration. For Orbital, their focus on function became, a new material isn't a breakthrough without a chemical process.
It makes the differentiation actionable for the whole team.
Exactly. It acts like a compass. And they also suggest adding a safeguard principle.
Which is?
Thinking ahead about potential negative consequences if you succeed. What could go wrong? And bake a principle in to try and prevent that. Responsible innovation.
That's smart. And all this, the 2x2, the principles, gets combined into a mini manifesto.
Yeah, a concise summary of your foundation. Day 1, done.
Okay, day 2. The focus shifts to approach. Exploring options, right? Not just sticking with the first idea.
Precisely. They tell the story of Genius Loci in Switzerland. They initially planned just an app.
But realized they needed physical signs, too, for the experience to really work.
Yeah, it shows the danger of getting locked in too early. You need to actively seek out alternatives. Maybe even look at alternate customers. Could tweaking your target audience unlock more potential?
How do you evaluate these different potential approaches effectively?
They suggest using lenses, looking at each option from different viewpoints.
Like the team of rivals concept.
Exactly. Imagine evaluating an idea from the perspective of the ambitious product visionary, then the practical engineer, the savvy marketer, the cautious finance expert.
Each one brings different priorities and concerns.
Right. It forces a more rounded evaluation, helps spot blind spots. They share how Reclaim used this to assess AI scheduling features.
And you can create custom lenses too, tailored to your specific project.
Absolutely. Like Reclaim's Revenue Plus Cure lens, focusing on both business viability and solving the core user pain.
So you run the options through these different lenses, get all that perspective.
Then you zoom out, review the evaluations, and the decider picks the top bet, but also identifies a solid backup plan.
Okay, so you have a strategy, a chosen approach, but still just a plan, right?
Crucially, yes. The book makes a really strong point here. Your strategy, even after all this work, is fundamentally just a hypothesis, an educated guess.
They use the story of Urbain Le Verrier, the astronomer.
Yeah. He brilliantly predicted Neptune's existence based on math. Amazing. But then he spent years convinced there must be another planet, Vulcan, closer to the sun, even when evidence mounted against it.
Because his calculations said it should be there, cognitive bias.
Exactly. He couldn't let go of his initial hypothesis. They contrast him with Einstein, who was famously willing to say, oops, looks like I was wrong about that, when experiments contradicted his ideas.
That humility is key. Treat the foundation not as gospel, but as your best guess, ready to be tested.
Which leads to the founding hypothesis, summing up all those core assumptions into one testable statement.
And the testing happens through tiny loops.
Yes. Instead of building the whole thing and then seeing if people want it, you run quick, small experiments, tiny loops to test parts of your hypothesis before you invest heavily.
Like Phaedra did, prototyping and testing their AI dashboard concepts with actual plant engineers early and often.
Perfect example. They didn't wait for a finished product. They got rough versions in front of users, saw what worked, what didn't, and iterated rapidly, much smarter than a long, isolated development cycle.
Avoids building something nobody actually uses in the end.
Right. And design sprints, coming full circle, are presented as a fantastic tool for executing these tiny loops. You can build and test a realistic prototype with real customers in just a week.
And prototypes aren't just for software, right?
Not at all. You can prototype a service, a marketing message, a physical object, anything you need to test.
The crucial thing, they say, is watching for genuine reactions, not just polite feedback.
Exactly. Do their eyes light up? Do they lean in? Do they ask, can I use this now? That's the signal you're getting closer to that click, that visceral positive reaction.
So wrapping it all up, Click essentially provides a system, doesn't it? A way to increase your odds of making something people truly want.
Yeah, it's about that structured exploration with the foundation sprint, forming a clear hypothesis about what will work, and then being rigorous about testing that hypothesis through fast, iterative, tiny loops.
It makes you think, how you could apply this. Understanding your customer, your real advantages, the competition, focusing on differentiation, testing assumptions. You could use that framework almost anywhere.
Absolutely. It encourages a much more deliberate, user-focused approach from the get-go. Less praying for magic, more methodical discovery.
So here's a final thought for everyone listening. What seemingly obvious truth about what people want in your world might you actually be overlooking right now? And maybe what tiny experiment, what small loop could you run this week just to test one key assumption you hold? It's all about chasing that click.